Are we close to finalizing those contracts? Do you have any sense on whether or not this is actually going to go through?
I think there's been, continued talks between the legislative leaders today to kind of see how we can get to the floor tomorrow. I believe that the Committee on Joker is going to meet again tomorrow morning. That they met today, but they still need to finish up their business tomorrow. So we are trying to get our, all the members here tomorrow so that we would be ready to go to the floor.
And what's the reaction been like in your district? You've got some public employees in your part of in part of the state. What's been the reaction from public employee unions in your area?
Well, I certainly am hearing at the office from constituents who are state employees that they would like to see the contracts finalized. They'd like to see us vote on them. That they've been working without a contract for a year and a half or so, and this really is kind of the last 6 months of the contract period that we have that we're going to be able to put this in place. And the contracts will then have to be renegotiated July of 2011. So it's been described as an austere package, a zero increase and pay. And I think there's been some misconceptions out there as well as part of the furlough days. And I know some local media in La Crosse have made a point about the furlough days that these employees took, that they could possibly be paid back for those in this upcoming contract, and that's completely false and baseless. And I have asked the department and OSHA about that, and that's simply not true at all as far as those furlough days being paid back.
Any sense on where that came from?
I think it came from a Madison newspaper article and it was baseless, it was untrue, and the department had tried to reach out to that paper and make that correction, but then it kind of got sent out around the state that there were some false information out there. So just want to make sure that people who have heard that in La Crosse, that those furlough days would be paid back in this contract. That's completely false and not true.
And 16 furlough days for the current term, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then have some of those furlough days already been taken, or would they have to be taken between now and June?
Well, I think many state employees have already started to take those furlough days. 16 days is a lot of furlough days to put in there. So I think that they have been planning, they have been using those furlough days that they've had to take.
Have you gotten a chance to look over the contracts? A lot of people have been saying it's a huge document, 1,900 pages or such. Have you gotten to take a look at it at all?
Well, I believe it was the MacGyver Institute had put that online earlier this month. I believe the department also on Friday put it out online. Yes, it's 1,900 pages, but many of it is very standard language that has been in other contracts. And if you look at the pages where there are some differences and some changes, it's maybe only 20 pages of different language that needs to be read. So certainly looking at the briefing materials that are coming out and looking at what those changes mean, but recognizing that state employees have made over $100 million in concessions. If it's with health insurance, if it's with retirement, there are $100 million in concessions that have been made by the unions.
Last question here. There are some people that are coming in committee saying that the legislature should hold off on this, that they should let Governor-elect Scott Walker try to negotiate the contract for this term, that they should wait until January until the new legislature comes in before deciding on the contracts. Your reaction to that?
Well, these employees have been working for 18 months without a contract, and Governor-elect Walker will have an opportunity in July to sit down with these bargaining units and negotiate contracts with them in the future. That this is something that was on Governor Doyle's responsibility. It is the legislature's responsibility to get this finished. And like I said, it's been 18 months that they've been working without this contract, and for us to go back and say, well, we really didn't mean those concessions, it has to be even more severe because of the economic times that we're in, I think it's troubling for morale of state employees, but also if we would have negotiated this and got it done and settled, we wouldn't be having these discussions, and things would just be fine. It would have been a final document that we wouldn't have to go back and revisit it to be even more severe and punitive.
Any sense on why it took so long in the first place? You have the Doyle administration, you have collective bargaining units. Any sense on why it took so long?
Well, I think, it could be partly they kind of wait for session to be adjourned for the legislature's work to be done and that they start to negotiate. Also, there's just no money. There really is no money, and so there were other things of give and take that had to be done, but recognizing that this is a zero increase salary increase that they're looking at. And like I said, it's been described as a very austere contract negotiation and contract.